My name is Hannah, and this is my beauty budget. Hey y'all, so today I'm going to continue with the ranking style videos and rank all of my blushes. This includes cream blushes, powder blushes, and blushes that are in blush compacts. I'm just going to rank the blush compacts in the ranking as one thing because I feel like what I'm doing here is ranking my individual pieces of makeup. And as I did with the eyeshadow palettes, I'm going to rank them as though some mean person were taking them away one by one. So if someone was going to take away just one blush, which one would I give that person? If they were going to take away two, then which two would I let them take, etc., all the way down to the one that I would keep if I was only allowed to keep one. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. Okay, I don't think I'm gonna have to zoom out to get everything in frame. These blushes, I should say, they don't include the 5 K-Beauty blushes that I'm testing from Yes Style. So there are 5 blushes over there on one of my shelves that are currently being tested and may or may not make it through the eventual purgatory box, but I'm going to be reviewing them and then deciding whether or not to keep them in future videos. And then there's also there's like a cream blush product or two in the purgatory box. So these are only the blush products that I have either purchased or passed through purgatory and owned for a while. These are the ones I'm ranking. I'm going to start by doing a little organization just silently, and then I'll check in partway through. So I'm not done with the ranking yet, I'm still musing, but I did want to check in because I just had a little bit of a revelation. So this I felt immediately compelled to put at spot number 1, and this is a new addition to my collection. This is the Blush Subtil by Lancome. It is in the shade Miel Glacé, which I believe is sort of a cult classic, at least that's what it seems from the response I got when I posted it on Instagram. And I am a little bit hesitant about putting it at spot number 1 so soon after it's entered my collection because I know that there's the excitement about the fact that it's new, and I wonder if some of that excitement and newness is driving me to feel like it's more special than any of my other blushes, and I wonder that once it settles in, once it kind of starts to feel not so new, if I'll still feel the same way about it. But right now, I feel like I will, because the reason I want to put it in spot number 1 is just because the finish and the color and the sheen are so perfect, so perfect. It's just, it gives me this kind of like sheeny, sunburned look. It looks very skin-like, and the color, it's hard to explain. It's really like a blush from within on my skin tone. It ends up looking a bit darker on the skin than it does in the pan, but still very neutral. I'm not sure if I swatched it in my recent Reckoning video, which was also an overhead shot video. I'm not going to give in to the temptation to swatch a bunch of these right now because it's really just about ranking them and telling you guys about my ranking. But I just think that it's like an instant classic for me. And the fact that it's got that subtle sheen, almost in the way that the Kevyn Aucoin products do that I love so much on the cheeks, it just, I can't imagine it not being almost at the number 1 spot or at the number 1 spot for a long time to come. And then I realized that I wanted to put this one in the number 2 spot. This is a Givenchy blush that I purchased years ago. And I just love that it is a single blush, because even though it's got these 4 pans, it's really a single blush. You mix it all together. And I can sometimes lean on some of them when I'm using this on my eyes, but really it's just one color. It's in the color Aficionado Peach, which I believe is discontinued. I just love that, and it's also got sort of like it doesn't have as much sheen as the Blush Subtil, but it's got a subtle skin-like quality rather than looking incredibly powdery matte. And I think that the fact that these are both luxury single blushes, they feel like kind of precious jewels to me. And they feel, there's something about a blush in a single special pan that feels very edited to me. Like you've edited your blush needs down to just the one. I really love that. So just in the first instance, and by that I mean in like the multiple of the word instant, like not instance like in this instance, but you know, it's taken me 2 instants to figure this out. You guys know what I'm saying. Instance, TS, not CE. Just in the first instance of separating, I still feel like it's coming out confusing. Within the first moment or two of starting to separate these out, I learned something about myself that I don't think I knew before, which was that the kinds of blushes that I love, that I end up loving the most, are one pan luxury blushes. Like these two feel like my 2 favorite blushes. If someone were going to take away all my blushes, I would hang on to these 2 till the bitter end of that process. And even though these are luxury, the fact that they're in compacts with multiple colors makes them appeal to me less. They just feel less special to me. I think that's it, you guys. I think I've done it. I'm going to go through from the last to the first and explain myself, as is common practice. This Clinique Cheek Pop in Fig Pop I do really love, and I purchased it myself, which is something that's going to come to bear as we move through. I purchased it myself. I chose it myself. It is perfect. It's like perfect in every way. And I think that over the years that's made it feel a little bit boring to me, and so it's ranking last. One of the things I really love about it is the skin-like sheen of it. I just love that sheeny finish that these Clinique Cheek Pops have. There's nothing wrong with it. And I should have said this at the beginning, but if I don't like a blush, I don't keep it in my collection for any length of time. It never makes it out of the purgatory box. Or if I buy it and I don't like it, I don't keep it, right? So just because this is last, it doesn't mean that I don't wear it a lot. It doesn't mean that I don't love it, because I do wear it a lot and I do love it. I just feel like if I had to give one thing up, I could give this up and it wouldn't hurt too much, because I just don't feel as excited for it anymore. I feel like it's an old standard. It's like a good old standby standard, beautiful in every way. I'm glad that I have it, but it's still ranking last when it comes to looking at all of my blushes. Some of you might be shocked to see that this one's coming second to last in this ranking, because when I first received this, and I received it as a gift during my no-buy year, towards the end of my no-buy year, a gift from a subscriber, I loved it with such passion that I declared that it was my favorite blush product, and that if I could only keep one blush product, it would be this one, blah, blah, blah. And that was true for a long time. I loved this more than anything else I owned blush-wise, and I owned some of these at that time. And actually, she had sent me this at the same time. And over time, and you can see I've actually, well, I don't know if you can see, but I've worn quite a divot into this very pale side, because that was the side I was the most excited about, because it's so, so neutral and it's got a little bit of a sheen to it. Over time, I've noticed that when I wear this and I layer too much on, it can look a little gray on my cheek. And I'm not sure what it is. I think it might be the undertone. It might even be the sheen. There might be something about the sheen coming through that's a little bit gray. This side doesn't do it. It's this very, very, very pale side that just, maybe it's also because it's super, super pale and it's got a little bit of sort of opacity to the color, but there's something about it that there's like a gray undertone that cancels out that healthy skin-like flush that you hope to get from blush. So the more I used it and the more attentive I became to the effect on my cheeks, the more I started to feel a little bit lukewarm about this duo. I haven't said it's the Adore Blush Duo from Jouer. I still feel like their powders are top notch. They're so finely milled. They look incredibly skin-like. And I've started to dip more into this slightly darker shade when I reach into this duo. I still really love it. And I find if I lean on the darker shade and mix in a little bit of this pale shade, it doesn't give me that gray cast. So I'm still keeping it around. I'm still using it a lot, but it isn't the perfect, super, super pale nude blush on me that I originally expected, that I originally thought it was. It doesn't really fit that hole in my collection in the way that I thought that it did. I mean, in theory it does, but there's this effect to the finish that makes me not want to lean on it for that. So that's why it's here in the second to last position. So this right here is the Becca Blushed with Light palette, and the three Becca blushes are Wisteria, Songbird, and Snapdragon. Snapdragon's a little bright for me, but I find this incredibly useful because all three of these look amazing in the crease, and they wear really well as eyeshadows too. I like the skin-like finish of these as well, and I cherish this little palette. It's hard. I mean, it's actually interesting. This process is showing me how edited my blush collection is, because I really love all of these. I super hate the idea of someone coming and taking them away one by one, because I'm like, no, don't take my, even the very last one, I'm like, no, this is a great product for me and I'm making great progress on using a lot of it. So it's really interesting. It's shocking to me that this would be third from the bottom in this ranking, and shocking that this one would be second from the bottom. It's just that there are only 10, so and I love them all so much. I really like blush. Anyway, this is great. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I think that the fact that I think of it as a bit utilitarian puts it closer to the bottom, because I tend to, well, that's not true, because I think of like a single blush in a beautiful compact like this as being super utilitarian. I think it might be the fact that it's a palette, like a blush palette. There are three of it. There are three of it. There are three of them in it. And because you can, oh my gosh, this is it. I've had a revelation. This is why I love these guys more than these guys. It's because you only wear one blush. I mean, maybe not so with these, you mix them, or maybe even with these, but really with an eyeshadow palette, it makes sense because you frequently build an eye look using multiple eyeshadows. So it makes sense to have them together in one piece of makeup. But with blush, I feel like when I look at this palette, I'm like, this is three different options for three different times. So it feels like whenever I take it with me, I'm taking the blushes for three different times with me. And so it's like one piece of makeup, but it's bigger than it needs to be each time you use it. And that just doesn't satisfy my sense of kind of like elegance and efficiency as much as one of these, where it's like it's one piece of makeup to use the one thing that you need when you use it to do your makeup that one time. I don't know if I'm making any sense at all, but I think this is closer to the bottom in large part because it's a blush palette. And I have learned today that I really love myself a beautiful single compact blush. Moving on, after the mean person took away this, and this, if they still said they were going to take more, I would probably throw them these ColourPop blush sticks, which I love. And I feel like I haven't given them a fair shake yet. Like I haven't worked with them enough yet to know how much I even love them, because I might even love them more than some of these top row ones. I just find that the stick form for a cream product isn't the one that I am the most likely to reach for. I like a little pot. I like being able to dip my brush into a little pot, even squeezing out a little, well, the cloud paint might be an exception just because the formula is so extraordinary. A pot is my preferred format for a cream blush. So these tend to languish because the format, to me, it's like an extra step. But I love the colors and I really love this formula. So I would be reluctant to let them go, but I think I would let them go before I would let this NARS palette go. And here's why I realized I had so many revelations while filming this. Here's why the NARS palette beat out these two palettes, even though it is a palette. It's not necessarily because of the intense diversity of the shades, although I do love Exhibit A. I really love owning this blush, and I would be sad to give it up. It just means something to me. I bought this myself. These were both gifts from a subscriber. And I value, I mean, gosh, I'm about to contradict myself maybe on the surface, because in my last declutter, or my last ranking video where I ranked my eyeshadow palettes, my top 3 palettes were all gifts, and I talked about the fact that I cherished them because they were gifts. So maybe what I'm about to say, maybe this revelation doesn't really hold water, or maybe it only applies to these blush palettes, but I feel like there's like a kind of loyalty or a kind of recognition of the self in a product that I choose to buy myself. So I spent my money, I chose it, I spent my money on it, and I feel like it's extra right for me because of that in this case. And I realize that I feel more of an affinity for this, even though I don't necessarily reach into it more often. I think probably, even though they're all quite different, they're kind of all equally useful for me in, you know, all things being equal. But I would be happier to give these up if someone were forcing me to do so, because I still have these feelings of attachment that come from having chosen this and having spent the money on it and invested in it. So I don't know, I just find that really interesting and worth talking about. It even beat out these ColourPop blush sticks, which are much newer and more exciting. And now we are getting into my tippity top. I feel like with the eyeshadow palettes, there was like a distinguished top 6. There was like a line in the sand between the top 6 and the rest. And with this group of products, this is the line in the sand. I've got a top 4 of distinguished products. And it's funny because it's kind of like variations on a theme here. Each one of them is a single color, a single object, a single offering, and they're kind of all pretty similar color-wise. They're all basically nude, although the Aficionado peach color in this Givenchy blush is a little bit more of like an apricot nude. They all provide sort of like a healthy, ruddy, nude, sunburned-ish flush on the cheeks. So in 4th place here we have the Lila B Be Lovely Divine Duo Lip and Cheek. I liked this when I first got it, and it's really grown on me, and at this point I would say I absolutely love it, and I've made quite a dip in it. I love using a really shiny, gleaming primer and then buffing this into the primer on my cheeks to make like a rich, neutral, glossy cheek all across the nose look. Such a gorgeous product. I wish that Lila B would make even more neutral colors. Like, this is their most neutral color, and it's a tiny bit of a berry. I wish they would make even more nudes, but you know, I wouldn't I wouldn't give this up. I'm sorry, not sorry that I have this one. The Glossier Cloud Paint provides a very similar service to that one by Lila B, and I'm surprised. I mean, they're kind of neck and neck. I like the color of the Cloud Paint better. It's a little bit more neutral. It's a little bit duskier. It may even be a little bit paler than the one from Lila B, and that's why it's 3rd instead of it being the other way around. It's just because of the color. I've used up almost all of this, as you can see. There's only a little bit left in the top. It's pretty spectacular because a little goes a very, very long way with this product. I don't love the format. I wish that there was something like this in a pot form, because I love a pot form for a cream blush. But the color of this is amazing, and the formula is so stunning. It lasts on the eyes, it buffs out perfectly, it looks like skin. It's not too matte. It's really, 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 really amazing. Love those 2 guys. And then I already talked kind of at length about these 2. I think this is similar to the NARS one. It's something that I bought back before my no-buy year. I needed an apricot blush. I didn't have a blush with sort of those orange tones. I decided to invest in a gem of a luxury product, and I don't reach for it as often as I should, especially considering that it came in number 2. I reach for these much more frequently. I've gotten more use out of these 2 than I get out of this one for sure. But I would still want to keep it if someone were taking away all my blushes except 2, I would still want to keep this one because it's just special to me. It just holds a special place. I feel very, very, very fond of it, and I do love the way it performs. But if someone were taking away all but 1, I have to say, as special as this one is to me, I would keep this because it is just spot on. I've never seen such an extraordinary color payoff and finish for a blush for me with my complexion on my cheeks as this iconic Lancome blush, and I feel really, really lucky that I was able to receive it as PR. So this is my number 1. Wow, I think I hadn't articulated that to myself until I sat down to film this video. What a shock to have received a blush in PR this month and to have it suddenly be literally my favorite blush of all time. So that is it. Those are all of my blush products ranked, my entire blush collection ranked in order from the one that I would want to keep the most if I could only keep one, all the way down to the one that I would give away first if someone were forcing me to give one away. This was really fun. I've been looking forward to filming these ranking videos, but they're more enlightening than I expected them to be. And I hope that they are also fun for you to watch. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for watching. And I also hope that you are remembering to take extra good care of yourself right now so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work and your art.